In the year 20XX AD, a mysterious giant construct appeared from the depths of the ocean. It sent out a swarm of flying machines that abducted 8 of the world's most advanced robots. A few months later, they came back. The kidnapped robots reprogrammed and fighting for their army. And they were hunting for even more robots to add to their forces. There is only one robot who can stop them. Or is there? Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Megaman Rock and Roll. I have been wanting to get to this fan game since I started doing fan games probably about, what was that, 2-3 months ago now? I hope I have my uploads memorized to that kind of time constraint. Either way, let's just get right on into it with a new game. Ready to rock! I should note, the boss attack and time attack options that are only there if you've beaten the game before. And I have, of course. Control-wise, Mega Man in this game is classic Mega Man. Charge, slide, all that jazz. But it does have some unique features going on, namely the fact that, like a couple other fan games, you do have a one-button slide thing you can pull off in the options menu. I just have it mapped to press circle and, hey, Fireman, how you doing, bud? Shit. So, whenever you see me slide, I'm more than likely just pressing circle instead of doing the usual down and jumping. Honey Woman, too? Oh, crap. Also notable in the options, even though I won't take advantage of this until quite a bit later in the game, I believe, if even. This game has the Mega Man 11 weapon scroll. Wait, Skullman? Shit, man, really? Where if you have a special weapon, you can just rotate the right stick in one direction, and you can go through all the weapons at once. And Dagger, man? Okay. Got some super fighting robot love in here, but I appreciate that because I like that game a lot. And hey, Proto Man. Shit! The game's called Rock and Roll for a reason, after all. Roll in her battle robot mode controls almost the exact same as Mega Man. Same physics, same slide momentum, so on and so forth. Her differences come in with her toolkit. She can't use the charge shot whatsoever. She's stuck using the, I guess, roll buster. But in its place of a charge shot, she has a double jump you can do by pressing the jump button twice. It's not much of a double jump for height, although there are some jumps you can only make with her due to this. It's more so one for distance, because you can get some pretty good distance with it going on, and it's just a really good toolkit ability. And you'd be surprised at what just having this little ability can do for your momentum. And crap, they're converting Proto Man, or are they? Yeah, he's always caused some problems, hasn't he? Roll is such a simple playstyle, but it works really well for Mega Man level design. In fact, overall, she's my preferred character to play in the game, and hey, there's Mega Man! I should probably get down there and see if I can do anything to stop that, because that's never a good sign. Oh, hey, look, something I can do something about that with. You know, for story writing purposes, this is, of course, going to free Mega Man and whatever's happening with Proto Man, I guess. But it's a good thing that destroying that didn't cause them any damage, because that would have been greatly unfortunate. The intro level here at this point, though, is more so just a barrage of enemies that aren't really much of a threat. This is more foreshadowing to a mechanic we're going to see way later on. Also, very minor detail with that background there. If you pay attention, the water's surface actually is 3 different parallax levels. And they actually do get closer together the farther up it goes because depth. I really like that detail. Also, Roll is running around in the background. The game has a good amount of small little background things like that in certain parts of the game. It really makes for a charming design choice. With that said, though, we're actually just about at the end of the intro stage. There is no boss for the intro stage. It's just escape this whatever construct. Seeing a theme, though, of a lot of eyes. And then we're just sent right to the stage select. Not only is it visually modeled after Mega Man X1's, but it also has the information page for us to see the characters' names, as well as the stage names and their general areas. And if you ever want to switch characters, you can do so just by selecting the box here in the center. With that, though, let's go after our first Robot Master. That's good. Now, starting off, fall down right here because there's actually a hidden extra life. Or no, that's a W tank, rather. And that is going to be rather useful because this game limits your E-tanks in W-tanks. You can only have 3 E-tanks in 1 W-tank at a time. Admittedly, it's already kind of hard to hit that number because, well, I think there's at least 1 E-tank per stage, if even. On your first playthrough especially, this game is very easy to take a lot of hits in. So you'll be using your E-tanks up rather regularly unless you're just dying as it is. Generally speaking, I'd say, on the whole, this game is a bit harder than most fan games to start, but you get into the hang of it pretty quickly. Missleman's stage, though, despite having some bottomless pits, its main gimmick is kind of scattered. It has these giant crushers, which make me nervous because crusherphobia. But the biggest problem with them is that sometimes the timing beneath them can be a bit strict, and that sometimes you have to actively slide to avoid them. And that comes more into play later as it is anyway, and I mean way later. We also have the return of the timer bombs from every Mega Man game since 6, I think? Though I will say, this stage does more interesting things with them than I've seen in a lot of other projects related to Mega Man, official or otherwise. Which is actually kind of a precursor for a lot of things with this game. I think this might be the best level design in any Mega Man fan game I've ever played, and I've played quite a few over the years. I'm not sure why, but something about the way this game designs its stages just feels so good. With maybe one exception, but that's because I just don't like that stage, period. Now, coming up here, hold right, because we have letters like we have in several fan games at this point, as with Mega Man 5. There are 8 letters, 1 in each stage, that spell rock and roll, and each set of 4 does a different thing. We'll go over that when the time comes. Oh, hey, these platforms from Iceman's stage. Haven't seen them in anything since Mega Man 1, now that I think about it. It's actually kind of nice to see them again. Eddie will show up occasionally throughout the game, but he's actually relatively rare in this one. But I believe the programmers specifically made it so that Eddie is explicitly helpful in this game. As in, he checks what you need and tries to give you something along those lines. Like, if you're low on health, he'll give you health. Low on weapon energy, he'll give the weapon energy. If you're full on both, I think he'll either give you an extra life or a tank. I recall seeing that in another LP's comment section from one of the playtesters, I believe. Now, as for how I discovered this game, I believe I just saw it on Twitter. I forget exactly how. Either another Fangame developer I'm following retweeted it, Proto Dude probably retweeted it, which actually is probably the most likely case of it. Or I just happened onto it from being on one of the various forums, which is the least likely of those because I'm seldom on the forums because I'm just not much of a forum person. I believe we're coming up on the end of the stage, though, and Missleman, the reason I go to his stage first is because I think he's a relatively pattern-based boss fight. He has only about 3 attacks, I believe. One of them is a charge across the screen, but his main one is this double missile fire. However, the thing is with the missile fire is that there are 2 versions of it. One that starts low and goes high, and starts high and goes low. The important distinction between that, beyond just jumping over one over the other, is that the second missile explodes closer to Missileman than the first one does, so you need to make sure you're constantly moving over or under the second missile so you don't get hit by its explosion radius. He also has a jump all across the screen, and I think he can also just fly up into the sky and then go right to you and then cross the stage. Yeah, there he goes right there. But that's all he can does, and because of how, not telegraphed, but slow his moves are to start, if you're paying attention, he's probably the easiest boss to take on first, in my experience. And for beating him, I actually forget the name of the missile we get, but we get his missile attack. It fires straight forward, and it explodes on impact. It's relatively powerful, though. I think it might be the strongest special weapon per use in the game. You can also, I believe, detonate it at will by pressing the fire button again, and it can destroy special breakable blocks that might hold an item behind them, lead you to another item, or a secondary path in general. You can also angle it up and down by holding the respective direction, which is something I seldom do. Blast Missile is really good, and it's also a relatively good offensive weapon, though I am going to be saving it for the long run, for the boss fights. And speaking of boss fights, it is the weakness of Tideman, so we're going to his stage next. Also, notably, you saw me select Rock there before switching back to Roll. Until playing as Megaman is required again, I'm going to be playing this game as Roll, just because I prefer her playstyle overall. At least for this game's level design. It's that whole thing of whenever a new character is introduced in a sequel or something, you tend to like to play them a lot just to see what they're like comparatively. The closest analog to that I can think of is the Donkey Kong Country series, where everyone preferred to play Diddy in the first one, so he got the starring role in the second, but then in the second one, everyone preferred to play Dixie due to her hover. And so she became the main character of the third one, and then Kiddy Kong never got a game in Donkey Kong Country 4, which I'm sparingly thankful for. Now, Tideman's level gimmick, beyond being the water stage, is a mixture of 2 things. One, there are currents under the water being pushed up by fans that will spring you up at a higher momentum than when you go down into them. Essentially, the lower you enter into one, the higher you'll get shot up. And you need to be a bit careful because there's times like this where they place that underneath spikes. But we also have the Gemini Man, I think that was Gemini Man stage in Mega Man 3's, eggs back. However, they don't spawn a single tadpole when you shoot them, they instead spawn 8 baby fishes. However, like Gemini Man stage eggs, only the ones that are flashing have the fish inside of them, so if you don't shoot those ones, you're safe. Not a bad thing, though, to use Blast Missile on... Missile on to kill a lot of weapons and enemies at once to get some potential item drops. There's also a squid enemy that drops some black ink bombs, and I know similarly to a similar attack in Splash Woman stage in Mega Man 9, it'll turn you, and it'll cover you in the ink if you get hit by it, but I forget if that does anything in this game. Like, I'm not sure if it, like, loosens up your controls a bit, or if it makes you take more damage. I honestly forget, because I think I only got hit by it once, and stood still until it wore off, if it wore off at all, just to be safe. Weapon energy drops relatively commonly in this game, though, and I'm going to be using it because Blast Missile is also very effective against the mini-boss of this stage, this anglerfish. The point you need to hit is the red energy pellet on top of it. So aim for that, and it goes down pretty quickly. It'll just spawn the shrimp that those fish enemies in Bubble Man stage and Mega Man 2 spawned. So as long as you fire the blast missile right, it'll also take out the shrimp at the same time, so you don't have much to fear. And now the stage is a darkness gimmick, my favorite. This isn't a bad darkness gimmick though, because not only do we have these plants around to light the way in the case you shoot them, but the jellyfish enemies, as you can clearly see, also light the way. However, in the case you take out all the light sources on the screen, the darkness does return, and thank God for double jump, otherwise I would have been dead there. That's what I mean by I like using roll more, because I could save myself in dire situations like that, and that's always nice. I think they took the right approach with Roll's double jump in this game, though, making it kind of like a minor hover rather than a straight-up double jump. Because, first off, that could potentially break level design and have to make them reconsider it in a further sense, like Mega Man and Base's, where they had sections of the stage just for Mega Man and Base because of how much Base's double jump and dash completely changed the physics. The minor double jump changes it just enough to not need to change the level design absurdly, barring unique stages. Alright, time for Tideman, though. He is, of course, weak to Blast Missile. He has an attack where he'll go across the side of the screen up and down, firing his little fish at you, which will try to home in on you afterwards. He'll swing his anchor around, which he'll then try to just drag it back into you, but if you hit him the first time and jump over it, you don't have to worry about much. He'll also cover himself in his bubble shield weapon, and then go across the screen several times trying to hit you with it, but the Blast Missile will take that out as well, making that attack not only easier to avoid, but I believe will also accelerate him heading into his next attack option? Relatively easy boss with this weakness, but not a bad boss without it either. And for beating him, we get that very bubble shield. I believe it's just called, yeah, shield bubble. This is an interesting one. It'll protect you from projectiles, of course, but it'll also kill most small enemies, and it'll also eventually pop from enough enemies. But if you use it in water, you'll rise up to the top of the screen, or at least the highest point in the screen the water is. And that's useful as it allows you to just skip certain platforming sequences. And since we've beaten 2 Robot Masters, we get Rush Coil. We don't have it to start in this game. Similarly to Mega Man 11, though, we don't have to press L or R to get to it. We can just press the Rush button to use it, in my case that is the triangle button. It's Rush Coil from Mega Man 3 onwards, really. There's nothing too different about it. However, if you use Tideman's weapon at the start of the stage, you actually get to find Splash Woman. You may have seen there, I actually had all 8 Robot Master weapons. I actually forgot to record that part until the end of the game. Whoops. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we're taking on some more Robot Masters. See you guys then.